The receipt fluttered to the floor as Noah Barnes cleared the last table of the night. He was already running on fumes, his back sore from hours on his feet, the arches in his shoes, long since flattened out. He reached for the bill, expecting a tip from the high roller in the corner booth, the kind of customer who usually left something that made the rest of the night a little more bearable. But this time there was nothing. Just a line, drawn right through the tip section. A 0. Noah blinked tired eyes, scanning the white paper again, as if it might change the second time. It didn't. A $0 tip on a $236 check. He held the receipt in his hand, fingers curling around the edge. For a second, just 1 second, the world tilted. That tip, that small percentage of someone else's luxury, wasn't a bonus. It was medicine. It was the difference between getting Jack's prescription filled tomorrow or pushing it off another week. He took a breath, steadying himself. No drama, no scene. Just keep going. "You all right?" asked Monique, one of the older servers, as she passed him on her way to the kitchen. "Yeah," Noah lied. "Just tired." She gave him a knowing look. "Aren't we all?" The man who'd left the table, tall, sharply dressed, barely said 5 words, had been particular to the point of absurdity. He wanted the gumbo without the okra, the bread sliced diagonally, and the lemon wedge cut away from the rind, because he didn't want the bitterness infecting the water. A quiet storm of preferences delivered without eye contact. Now he was gone. And so was the tip. Noah sighed, grabbing the empty plate and lifting it from the charger beneath. That's when he saw it. A folded piece of thick off-white paper. Not part of the restaurant's stationery. He hesitated, glancing around. Monique had disappeared into the kitchen, and Reed, the manager, was busy yelling at the dishwasher for something dumb. The dining room was empty. Quiet. He picked up the note, turning it over. His name, Noah, was written in bold, dark pen across the front. He opened it. Inside, in that same precise handwriting, were 7 words. "You said you'd do whatever it takes. Midnight. East Bay Dock. Come alone." Noah's breath caught in his throat. He read it again. The memory rushed back. The man had asked his name before ordering. Noah had thought it was odd then. Most diners didn't ask. Most didn't care. He looked out the window. The lights of Charleston's harbor twinkled in the distance. The restaurant sat right along the water, tucked between overpriced boutiques and historic bed and breakfasts. Just a few blocks east was the old shipping dock, mostly retired now, except for the occasional freight delivery or charter yacht. What kind of person leaves a note like that, and why him? He shoved the paper into his pocket, glancing around, as if someone might accuse him of theft. No one had noticed. He finished clearing the table in silence. By 11:15, the restaurant had emptied out. Kendra, the flirty waitress who always seemed to triple her tips, breezed by him on her way out, tapping her phone and laughing at something on screen. "You coming to Ruse later?" she asked. "Nah, got the early shift tomorrow." "Suit yourself." She shrugged already, halfway out the door. Noah didn't have the energy to explain he had more important things to think about, like how he was going to pay for Jack's heart medication with just $46 in his pocket. He didn't mention the note, didn't tell Monique, didn't even text Eric, his cousin, who usually helped him think through things when they got weird. He didn't want anyone to tell him not to go. By 11:45, he was walking the edge of East Bay Street, hands deep in the pockets of his jacket. The night air was thick and cool the way it always was when the wind came off the water. Charleston was beautiful at night, like something out of a painting, but tonight it felt different. Still. The dock looked almost abandoned, save for one small floodlight illuminating a corner office at the end of the pier. A Blacktown car was parked nearby. Engine running. Noah's heart thudded a little harder. His steps slowed. He could turn back. He could pretend he never saw the note. But then what Jack's next appointment was in 5 days. They wouldn't let him book the surgery until the deductible was paid in full. He needed that money. He took another step, then another. As he reached the pier's edge, a man stepped out of the shadows. Tall, wore a charcoal overcoat and leather gloves, even though it wasn't that cold. Noah Barnes, the man asked, voice calm, professional. Yes. Follow me. Noah did. He didn't ask questions, not yet. They passed stacked cargo crates, each marked with barcodes and faded company logos. It smelled of salt and old wood. A sliding door creaked open, revealing a surprisingly clean room, more office than warehouse. Fluorescent lights hummed above. A folding table sat in the middle of the space with 2 chairs. On the table, a laptop, a stack of paper, a sealed envelope, and a familiar face. Bo Kingsley. Noah blinked. He didn't recognize him at first, without the tailored blazer, without the designer sunglasses, without the indifference. Now, under the industrial light, he looked more human. Not warm, but human. Sit down, Bo said, gesturing to the chair across from him. Noah hesitated. Why am I here? Bo leaned back, steepling his fingers. Because I wanted to see what you'd do. You left me a $0 tip and a note. That's not normal. No, Bo agreed. It's not. A silence stretched between them. Bo finally spoke again. I watched you tonight. The way you handled the table. The way you didn't complain even when I made ridiculous requests. Most people roll their eyes. You didn't. I needed the money, Noah said simply. And you didn't get it, Bo said, matching his tone. But you're here anyway, which tells me something. Noah crossed his arms. What do you want from me? Bo pushed the stack of paper forward. These are logistics reports, shipping manifests. My company moves millions in product every month. Something isn't adding up. You want me to look through them? Noah asked, confused. I want you to do what you did with my dinner order. Notice what others miss. Noah looked down at the pages. Dates, weights, cargo types, port codes. This isn't exactly restaurant math, he said. You'll figure it out, Bo replied. And if you find the leak, I'll cover your son's surgery. Tonight. Noah's throat tightened. How do you know about my son? I know everything about everyone I test. Silence. Then Bo slid the envelope forward. Prove to me you're worth more than a tip, he said. You have 1 hour. If you enjoyed this video, comment 1. To let me know, if not, comment 2. Your thought mattered to me either way. Noah's fingers hovered over the pages as the clock on Bo's phone started counting down. 60 minutes. He glanced once at the billionaire across the table, who had folded his arms and was watching him not with impatience, but with eerie stillness. Like this was some sort of high-stakes interview or an experiment. The pages were dense rows of cargo weights, port of origin, arrival times, container IDs. Noah didn't pretend to understand half of it. But he wasn't trying to understand all of it. He was looking for patterns. Like he did when a customer didn't want olives, but the kitchen kept sending them anyway, or when Jack's cough worsened exactly 2 days after the pollen count rose. It wasn't about knowledge. It was about noticing. He flipped to a manifest dated 3 weeks ago. A container from Savannah listed at 4,870 pounds. Arrival weight 4,865, only 5 pounds off. That didn't seem unusual. He kept going. Another from Jacksonville. Departure 6, Edo 20. Arrival 5, Chetunhao 9. 5. Still. Close. Then he saw it. 3 shipments in a row, luxury electronics, each missing exactly 92 pounds. Not 91. Not 93. Each one signed off by someone with the initials CM. He tapped the paper. This person, CM. They signed all 3. Bo leaned forward slightly. Cliff Marston, my chief operating officer. Is he the one who handles these manifests? Not personally, Bo said. But he oversees the team that does. Why, because every time he signs off, the weight discrepancy is exactly the same. 92 pounds missing. Like clockwork. Bo stood his chair, scraping lightly. He walked slowly toward the edge of the room and stared out the window into the dark. Anything else, he asked, without turning. Noah flipped back to a manifest from earlier in the month. Here, same container type, same product, signed by someone else, L. Chan. No weight difference. Everything adds up. Bo said nothing, but his silence suddenly felt different. Noah looked up. Is this what you were hoping I'd find? Bo turned around. His expression wasn't satisfied. It wasn't even surprised. It was conflicted. I wasn't sure you would, he said quietly, but I had a feeling. Bo crossed back to the table and picked up the papers. He scanned them for only a few seconds before folding them and slipping them into a leather folder. Then he reached into his coat and pulled out a checkbook. Wait, Noah said, holding up a hand. You're really doing this? You're going to pay for the surgery. Bo didn't even look up as he wrote, I gave you my word. The scratch of the pen felt louder than it should in the quiet room. When Bo was finished, he tore the check neatly from the pad and held it out. Noah didn't take it right away. His hand hovered over the paper like it might vanish if he grabbed it too fast. $200,000. He blinked hard. His throat burned, for Jack Bo said, no strings, but Noah asked, voice barely above a whisper. Bo finally looked at him, eyes sharp but not unkind. You see things others miss. I need someone like that. Someone who's not already part of the machinery. You want me to work for you, I want you to observe. Quietly, discreetly. You'd be my eyes where I can't be. Watch people, catch patterns, report back. You won't be a spy, Noah. You'll be a safeguard. Noah stared at the check again. He thought about the machines at the hospital, the beeping monitors the nights Jack couldn't sleep because he couldn't breathe. Is this legal? He asked. Bo raised an eyebrow. I'm not asking you to break any laws, just watch and learn. I'll teach you the rest. Noah let out a breath. And my job? You'll have a better one. He hesitated again until something inside him, the father, not the waiter, took over. He took the check. Bo nodded as if they had just signed a contract. My driver will take you home. Get some rest. Tomorrow we start. Outside, the night air bit a little sharper. Noah stepped into the black town car waiting for him. The driver, a quiet woman with a soft southern drawl, nodded politely and opened the door. As the car pulled away from the pier, Noah leaned his head back. The check trembled slightly in his hand. He didn't realize how hard he was gripping it. This wasn't just money, it was hope. It was change. It was something terrifying and new. By the next morning, the offer no longer felt like a dream. It felt like a tidal wave. Bo's assistant called him just before 8 a.m., instructing him to be packed and ready by 9. A company car would take him and Jack to the estate, where housing and support staff were already arranged. Support staff. Noah wasn't used to any of this. He left a voicemail for Reed at the restaurant. No long explanation, just a simple, I won't be coming back. He packed the essentials. A few changes of clothes, Jack's favorite storybooks, the asthma meds, his insurance paperwork. Jack was up by then, still groggy but smiling when he saw Noah's face. Did you get the tip? Jack asked innocently, remembering what his dad always said when he worked the big tables. Noah knelt beside the bed and held up the check. I got something better, he whispered. Jack didn't understand. But he smiled anyway. By late morning, the car pulled up to a long, private drive framed by live oaks and moss. The estate was bigger than any house Noah had ever seen. cream-colored stone wraparound porches and wide windows that faced the bay. It looked like something out of a movie, or a catalog, or both. A woman in a navy pantsuit met them at the front steps. "Mr. Barnes, I'm Carla. I help manage the household." She smiled at Jack. "And you must be Jack. We've got your room all ready." Jack gave her a shy nod, clutching his stuffed bear. Inside the house was airy and quiet. A butler offered to carry the bags. Someone else showed Noah to a guest cottage overlooking the garden. It was more space than they'd ever lived in. Everything was clean, fresh, polished. Everything felt temporary. At noon, Carla returned. "Mr. Kingsley would like to meet with you now. He's in the South Library." "Library?" Noah swallowed and followed her through a maze of hallways. The room they entered was 2 stories tall, filled with books he'd never have time to read. Bo stood at the window, hands in his pockets. "You made it," he said without turning. Noah nodded. "We did." Bo turned, but he wasn't smiling. "This is where things get complicated." "How so?" Bo took a breath. "My life runs on secrets. People smile to your face and gut you in the next room. I've built an empire on control, on knowing more than everyone else in the room. And now you want me in the room?" Bo nodded. "Because you're not one of them. You're not playing the game. That's what makes you valuable." Noah tilted his head. "You trust me already?" Bo's voice was calm. "I trust your motive. You'd do anything for your son. That kind of loyalty isn't easy to find." A long pause. Then Bo walked to the desk, picked up a small binder, and handed it over. "What's this?" Noah asked. "A crash course, company structure, key players, things you might hear, people you'll meet." Noah flipped the first page. The first name listed was Marla Kingsley. He looked up. "My fiancé Bo," said, expression unreadable. "She'll be the first real test." The binder in Noah's hands felt heavier than it looked. As he flipped through its first pages, he saw crisp headshots, short bios, job titles, dotted lines of hierarchy. It read more like a political map than an organizational chart. This wasn't just a company, this was a kingdom. And Bo Kingsley wasn't just the CEO, he was the crown. And next to him, literally in the binder, was Marla. Marla Kingsley, fiancé, former brand strategist, social liaison, co-founder of Kingsley Charitable Trust. Noah stared at her photo. Blonde, elegant, the kind of poised beauty that made you straighten your posture without meaning to. She had that smile, the polished, practiced kind you see on magazines and fundraising brochures, the kind that didn't quite reach the eyes. Bo's voice cut through the silence. "She's good at looking perfect. She's even better at making others feel beneath her." Noah closed the binder. "You want me to spy on your fiancé?" No, Bo said, measured. "I want you to observe. Everyone, especially those closest to me. Sounds like trust issues." Bo didn't flinch. "I don't have the luxury of trust." There was something in that sentence. Heavy, personal. But Noah didn't press. Carla reappeared at the door. "Miss Kingsley just returned. She's waiting in the sunroom." Bo nodded, adjusting his watch. "Let's not keep her." Noah followed him through the house. The sunroom looked like it belonged in a magazine. Spread arched windows, antique furniture, pale cushions, without a wrinkle. A glass pitcher of cucumber water waited on the table. Everything was staged perfect. And in the middle of it sat Marla in a soft cream blouse, legs crossed, fingers wrapped delicately around a teacup. She looked up and paused just a heartbeat too long. Bo didn't miss it. "Marla, this is Noah Barnes. He'll be working with me on a confidential basis." Noah stepped forward. "Nice to meet you." Marla gave him a once-over, her expression pleasant but unreadable. Likewise, she said, her voice smooth as porcelain. Bo didn't mention hiring someone new, especially not so suddenly. Bo offered a faint smile. It wasn't planned. It was instinct. Ah, Marla replied, setting down her teacup. Your instincts are improving. There it was a flash. Not quite sarcasm, not quite support. Something in between. Noah tucked that tone into the back of his mind. Do you come from a corporate background, Mr. Barnes? She asked. No, Noah said evenly. Restaurant work, mostly service industry. How interesting. Another pause. So this is quite the leap, isn't it? Noah felt Bo glance at him, but he didn't need defending. It is, Noah said. But life doesn't always give you a straight ladder. Sometimes you climb sideways, sometimes you jump. A small, surprised smile curled at Marla's lips. Just barely. Well said. I'd like Noah to shadow me at the Westbridge client dinner tonight, Bo said, steering the conversation. It's low risk, but the room will be full of people with long memories and short filters. Marla's brow lifted. Tonight? That's rather short notice. We won't be in the spotlight, Bo said. Just observing. Marla reached for her glass. Then I assume I'll see you both there. Bo nodded once. We'll let you prep. See you at 7. As they walked out, Noah waited until they were out of earshot. She's sharp. Bo gave a short breath, almost a laugh. She's lethal. In the right room. They paused outside Noah's guest cottage. The sun had begun its slow descent over the marsh, painting the sky in soft amber. I'll have a suit brought to your room, Bo said. Be ready by 6:30. No tie. This crowd prefers a whisper of rebellion. Noah smirked. So they like billionaires who break dress codes. Bo's smile was small. They like power that doesn't apologize. Inside the cottage, Noah sat on the edge of the bed, the binder still in his hands. Jack was napping peacefully in the next room, a soft wheeze in his breath, the only reminder of what was still at stake. He turned back to the page on Marla. The photo smiled up at him like it knew something he didn't. He didn't trust her. Not yet. But it wasn't just her coolness or the polished tone. It was something else. Attention. The way her eyes flicked between him and Bo like she was recalibrating something in real time. As promised, the suit arrived before 6, a sleek charcoal jacket and crisp white shirt that fit almost too perfectly. Someone had done their measurements fast. By 6:30, he was standing at the bottom of the estate's grand staircase, fidgeting with the cuffs, trying not to feel like a fraud. Bo appeared first, no tie, sleeves slightly rolled calm as ever. Marla followed, descending with grace that looked effortless, like a scene from a different world. She wore a deep navy dress that glinted under the chandelier. Diamond studs, a delicate silver clutch. She looked stunning. She also looked past him like he was a valet. But then as they walked out together, her voice broke the silence. You clean up well, Mr. Barnes. Thanks, Noah said. So do you. She tilted her head, amused. Bo usually surrounds himself with people who don't talk back. You might be refreshing? Or replaceable, Noah said without smiling. Marla laughed softly. That remains to be seen. The ride to the Westbridge estate was quiet. Marla tapped on her phone. Bo reviewed notes. Noah looked out the window, memorizing the rhythm of the city as it blurred past. Inside the dinner was everything Noah expected: soft jazz, low-lighting laughter with sharp edges. Waitstaff in black vests drifted like shadows. Conversations danced between investment opportunities and who'd bought what coastline property this month. Bo and Marla split to work the room. Noah hung back near the bar, sipping sparkling water and listening. It wasn't long before someone recognized him. Don't I know you? A man asked, tilting his head. You served me at that restaurant, Mariner House, right? Noah froze. That was me. Thought so, the man chuckled. Didn't tip well, did I? Before Noah could answer, Marla was suddenly beside him. Wendell always charming, she said, her tone silky. Noah's with us now. Wendell blinked. With you, in what way? Marla looped her arm gently through Noah's. Let's just say, he's part of the future. She turned to him with a smile. Come with me, Mr. Barnes. Time to observe something interesting. As they stepped away, Noah looked at her out of the corner of his eye. You saved me back there. Marla's smile didn't waver. Only because I didn't want to explain why one of our guests ended up with his foot in his mouth. So I'm a PR shield now. No, she said finally, turning to face him. You're a wild card, and I don't like surprises. They reached a quiet corner of the room where Beau was deep in conversation with a senator's aide. Marla leaned in close, lowering her voice. If you're going to be part of this world, Noah, learn one thing quickly. Power isn't loud. It's quiet. It's the hand that moves the piece, not the piece itself. Noah met her gaze. And what are you? Her smile was slow, deliberate. I'm the hand, Mr. Barnes. She turned and walked away, her dress whispering against the marble floor. Noah watched her go, heart thudding harder than it should. He wasn't sure if she was warning him or inviting him to play. If you enjoyed this video, comment 1 to let me know. If not, comment 2. Your thought mattered to me either way. The clink of crystal glasses echoed softly across the terrace, mingling with laughter that never quite reached the eyes. The Westbridge dinner was winding down, but the tension in Noah's shoulders hadn't relaxed. He stood at the edge of the balcony, Charleston's skyline blurred behind soft lantern light, watching Beau in animated conversation with 2 venture capitalists. Marla was across the courtyard, gliding through the crowd like a ghost in silk, smiling at everyone, trusting no one. Noah didn't belong here, and he knew it. He tugged at the cuff of his jacket, feeling the unfamiliar fabric against his skin. It still didn't feel like his life. The money, the suits, the quiet stares from people who thought they recognized him but couldn't quite place the new version. Overwhelming, isn't it? He turned. The voice belonged to a woman he hadn't seen before. Mid-30s, poised but warm, with auburn curls pulled into a loose knot, and an expression that didn't look like it was practiced in the mirror. Her dress was simple black with a satin trim, but her presence didn't need sparkle to be noticed. I'm sorry, Noah said, straightening. Do I know you? She smiled, extending a hand. Clara Winslow. I work with Kingsley Foundation. Marla and I we orbit the same circles. Noah Barnes, he replied, shaking her hand. Oh, I know who you are, she said with a little tilt of her head. You're the story Marla hasn't stopped talking about. Is that right? She finds you interesting. The word hung there a second too long. Noah gave a slow breath, then looked back at the courtyard. I think I'm more of a curiosity than anything. Clara followed his gaze. Maybe. But you're not invisible, if that's what you think. Noah studied her. You seem different from the others here. Clara's smile was faint but real. I come from public schools and boxed mac and cheese. This world, it's a chapter, not my whole book. They stood in silence for a moment. I think I liked you the second you said that, Noah said quietly. She turned toward him, brow raised. Already trying to charm your way through this job, not usually. But maybe I'm learning. Clara laughed softly, the sound genuine. It felt like a window opened in a stuffy room. Before he could say anything more, Marla's voice drifted in behind them. There you are, Noah. I've been looking everywhere. Clara stepped back a little instinctively. Noah turned to see Marla descending the stairs from the second-floor balcony. Her presence always carried a hum like a storm that hadn't decided whether to break or pass. Clara, she said, voice perfectly pleasant. You've met our new observer. We were just talking, Clara said, tone neutral. Of course, Marla replied. Though I'm surprised to see you here. I thought the foundation dinner in Savannah was tonight. It was. I chose this instead, bold Marla said with a practiced smile. Noah could feel the shift. Whatever lived beneath their shared history, it was frost-bitten and quiet. No raised voices, just sharpened glances. I'll leave you to it, Clara said, giving Noah a soft nod before stepping away. Marla waited until she was gone. You should be careful who you let close to you. She seemed nice, Noah said, careful. She is, Marla agreed. But niceness doesn't always come without motive. Is that what you think about me? He asked. Marla's eyes searched his face. I don't know what to think about you yet. That's the problem. Before Noah could respond, Bo joined them, wineglass in hand. The car's ready. Already, Marla said, feigning surprise. We haven't even said goodbye to half the table. I said what mattered, Bo replied. And tonight wasn't about being seen. It was about seeing. He looked at Noah when he said it. They left quietly, the three of them sliding into the back of the town car. The ride was darker than before, quieter. Marla stared out the window. Bo leaned into his thoughts. Noah looked down at his hands. Still rough. Still the hands of someone who didn't belong in a world of velvet napkins and monogrammed stationery. At the estate, Carla met them at the door with a clipboard. Bo, there's a document from Cliff you'll want to look at. It came through 10 minutes ago. Bo took it with a frown, scanning as he walked toward his study. We'll talk in the morning, he said to Noah. Good work tonight. Noah nodded. Good night. Marla lingered. When the door closed behind Bo, she turned to Noah, voice low. He's trusting you very quickly. Noah looked at her. And you don't like that. I don't like surprises. You said that already. Then you should take it seriously. They stood under the chandelier light, her words circling them like invisible thread. Why are you really here? She asked finally. For Jack, he said without hesitation. She watched him, and for the first time something flickered in her expression. Softness, or something close. How old is he? 6, turning 7 next month. Marla folded her arms. I suppose you'd do anything for him, without blinking. Even work for a man like Bo. What's wrong with him? She gave a small, almost sad smile. He doesn't know how to love something without trying to control it. Noah didn't respond. She stepped closer, voice lower now. Be careful, Noah. This house looks beautiful from the outside, but it's built on things you don't understand yet. He met her gaze. Then help me understand. Marla held his eyes. I'm not sure I should. She left before he could ask what that meant. The next morning, Noah found himself back in Bo's study, coffee, steaming in his hands, binder open to another profile, Cliff Marston. Bo was pacing. We're being played, Bo said, handing over the document from last night. This shipping partner, Langridge, they're laundering weights again. Cliff says it's a glitch. I think he's lying. Noah read quickly. It was technical, but something jumped out. This shipment, he pointed, says it departed on the 6th. But that's a Saturday. Your dock doesn't operate on weekends. Bo looked up, impressed. Exactly. You keep noticing things. Noah closed the file. You brought me here to see what others miss, right? Bo nodded slowly. And I'm starting to think you were the best decision I've made in years. The compliment sat heavy on the air. But in Noah's mind, something else lingered, Marla's voice from the night before. He doesn't know how to love something without trying to control it. The house, the job, The sudden rise, it all felt like a wave building under his feet. And somewhere in it, Clara's quiet warmth, Marla's cutting charm, and Beau's calculated faith were forming a triangle of pressure he hadn't yet learned how to stand inside. He wasn't sure who he trusted, but he knew this much. Something was going to break, and when it did, everything would change. The kitchen smelled like cinnamon and fresh bread when Noah stepped in, surprised to find it already buzzing at 7 a.m. Clara stood by the stove sleeves, rolled up, flipping pancakes on a cast iron griddle like she owned the place. She glanced over her shoulder and smiled, her hair pulled into a low ponytail. "You're up early," she said, sliding a pancake onto a plate. Noah rubbed the back of his neck. "Couldn't sleep. Thought I'd grab some coffee before the meetings start." "Well, you picked the right time. I got up early to bring Jack some real breakfast." She nodded toward the table where Jack sat in pajamas, legs swinging under the chair, grinning as he drowned a pancake in syrup. "Dad?" She made it look like a bear. Jack pointed at his plate, eyes wide, with banana eyes and everything. Clara chuckled. "Artistic food is the only way I ever convinced my nephew to eat anything at that age." Noah took a seat beside Jack, watching Clara move with effortless warmth. No airs, no agenda, just kindness. "Thank you," he said softly after a beat. Clara glanced at him. "For pancakes? For treating my son like a person? Not a project?" Her expression changed just slightly, but enough to show she heard what he wasn't saying. "You're welcome," she said gently. "He's a good kid, like his dad." He didn't know what to say to that. Compliments always felt like borrowed suits, something that didn't quite fit yet. Jack crunched on a bite, then turned to Clara. "Are you a chef?" "Nope," she said. "Just someone who knows the kitchen is the heart of the house. Doesn't matter how big the house is." That line lingered with Noah. This place, this life, felt massive and hollow all at once. Clara was the first person who made it feel like home. After Jack ran off to change into his day clothes, Clara poured 2 cups of coffee and slid one toward Noah. They sat in comfortable quiet, the hum of the fridge filling the space between them. "Can I ask you something?" she said finally. "Of course." "Why did Beau pick you?" Noah sipped, slowly thinking. "Honestly, I'm still trying to figure that out. You're not just some guy off the street, Noah. You see things. You read people." "That's rare." He looked at her. "Is that your way of saying I'm being tested?" She tilted her head. "Aren't we all in one way or another?" Her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and sighed. "I've got to prep for a donor brunch in Bluffton. But tonight there's a gala. Low Country Children's Fund. Marla usually hosts with Beau, but I hear she's bowing out." Noah blinked. Why, Clara's smile was tight. Could be strategic, could be personal. With Marla, it's usually both. "Will you be there?" he asked before he could stop himself. "I wasn't planning on it," she said, then paused. "But maybe I will now." Something unspoken passed between them. An acknowledgement. A seed. She rose, gathering her things. "Tell Jack I'll teach him how to make pancake bears next time." Noah watched her walk out his thoughts, louder than the silence she left behind. Later that afternoon, Marla appeared in the corridor outside Beau's office. Her heels clicked softly against the marble, her posture effortless. She carried a tablet in one hand and a faint smile that didn't match her eyes. "You've been quiet today," she said to Noah as she passed. "Didn't think you liked noise," he replied. She stopped, amused. "Touché? Are you planning to attend tonight's gala? Beau invited me to observe." Marla's gaze narrowed just slightly. "Of course he did. You're not going?" "No." She looked away. "I've stepped back from the public side of things. That doesn't sound like you." Her eyes snapped back to his. You think you know what I sound like? No, Noah said. But I'm learning the difference between who you are in a room and who you are when no one's watching. The air thickened. She stepped closer, dropping her voice. You should be careful, Noah. You're getting better at reading people, but not fast enough. What does that mean? It means you're in over your head and you don't even know it yet. With that, she walked away, leaving her perfume and a dozen new questions in her wake. The gala was held in a waterfront ballroom draped in soft gold and flickering candlelight. Crystal chandeliers danced above strings of fairy lights, casting warm glows on the faces of Charleston's most powerful. Beau stood near the entrance, flanked by executives and donors. He wore a midnight blue suit, custom-tailored with a black-on-black shirt beneath no tie again. Commanding. Effortless. Noah arrived late, unsure if he belonged more now than he did the first time. He spotted Clara across the room, dressed in a dark green gown that moved like water. When she saw him, her eyes softened. Hey, she said, stepping away from a small conversation circle. You made it. You said you might show up. And you said you might be replaceable. They both smiled. I'm glad you're here, Clara said, voice low. You look like yourself tonight. Is that good or bad? Depends who's watching. They stood at the edge of the room, watching Beau navigate the crowd. He's good at this, Noah said. He's rehearsed, Clara replied. Every word, every handshake, and Marla absent on purpose. It sends a message. What kind of message? That she's still in control even when she's not present. Clara's gaze wandered. This world, Noah, it rewards performance. But underneath, people are breaking all the time. Are you? She looked at him, surprised by the question. No, she said after a beat. But I've been close. The music shifted to a softer tune. Couples began to drift onto the dance floor, gliding like shadows beneath the light. Clara hesitated. Do you dance badly? He said. Good. Then I won't feel self-conscious. He offered his hand. She took it. They moved slowly, awkwardly at first, then found a rhythm. The room blurred. For a moment there was no Beau, no Marla, no company secrets. Just warmth and skin brushing against skin, and the steady breath of someone letting their guard down. Noah leaned in, his voice quiet. This feels real. It is, Clara whispered. That's why it scares people like them. They danced until the music changed again. Then a soft tap on Noah's shoulder broke the spell. Beau. His expression was unreadable. Sorry to interrupt. Clara stepped back politely. Beau looked at Noah. I need to speak with you. Now. Noah followed him into a side corridor, away from the hum of the party. Beau turned, voice low but sharp. You're here to observe. Not become a distraction. You're saying I can't dance with someone at a public event. I'm saying eyes are on you, and not all of them are kind. Noah straightened. If you don't trust me, then say it. Beau hesitated. Just long enough. I trust you, he said, finally. But not everyone will. A long pause passed between them. Just be careful who you let see behind the curtain, Beau added before walking away. Noah stood there, heart still catching up to the moment. Something had shifted. And not just between him and Clara. Beau wasn't the only one watching. And from the shadows, someone else was keeping score. The next morning, the silence in the guest cottage was too loud. Noah sat at the edge of the bed, staring at the floor, while Jack played with toy cars on the rug. The gala clung to his thoughts like humidity in summer, heavy, sticky, hard to shake. Clara's voice still echoed in his mind. So did the sharpness in Beau's eyes when he interrupted their dance. And somewhere underneath it all was the question that kept digging deeper. Why am I really here? He heard a soft knock. When he opened the door, Carla stood on the porch with a manila folder in one hand and her ever-neutral smile. "Mr. Kingsley would like you in the conservatory," she said. Noah glanced at the clock. 8:06. Now Carla handed him the folder. He said it's urgent. Jack looked up from his toys as Noah grabbed a jacket. "I'll be right back, buddy." Jack nodded, too focused on making his red car flip off the edge of the coffee table to ask questions. The conservatory was all windows and morning light with creeping ivy winding around the beams like a living frame. Beau stood near a tall ficus, reading from his phone with that half-scowl he wore when something wasn't going his way. He didn't look up. "You've made quite the impression," Beau said, finally swiping the screen. "On who, Cliff, for starters. He wants to know why my new friend is digging around his department." Noah stepped inside. "You asked me to look for patterns. And you've found more than you should have this early." Beau lowered the phone. "Which is why I'm giving you something that hasn't been touched yet." He nodded to the folder in Noah's hands. Noah opened it slowly. Inside were printed emails, timestamps, and a list of recurring transactions routed through a subsidiary Beau said he didn't recognize. "The name's fake," Beau explained. "A shell company. Set up before I took full control. But someone's still using it. And they're getting paid. How much? $250,000 last quarter." Noah whistled under his breath. "This is where I need you to be sharp," Beau said. "Cliff's already paranoid. Marla's circling. Clara's... well, I'm still trying to figure out what her angle is." Noah glanced up. "You think Clara has an angle everyone does?" "Noah, even you." That stung more than he expected. "I thought I was here because I didn't," Noah said. Beau looked at him unreadable. "That's what made you valuable, but even honest people change." The words landed like a quiet warning. "Find out who's routing the payments," Beau said, "and keep it quiet." Noah nodded, tucking the folder under his arm. As he turned to leave, Beau called out, "One more thing." Noah paused. "I like Clara," Beau said, "but don't get distracted." Noah didn't answer, because the truth was he already had. That afternoon, Clara texted him a simple line, "Meet me at the dock." 5 p.m. It was a public pier a mile from the estate. Locals used it to fish or sit with takeout cartons and quiet thoughts. When Noah arrived, Clara was already there, barefoot shoes tucked under the bench, her feet dangling above the water. "You always text like it's a spy movie," Noah said, approaching. Clara didn't turn around. "Maybe it is." He sat beside her, letting the quiet between them stretch a little longer than necessary. "Rough day?" she asked. Noah handed her the folder Beau gave him. Another mystery. More shadows. Clara flipped through the first few pages and whistled. "That's not small change." "Nope." "Why you?" she asked softly, closing the folder. "Why does Beau trust you with this? I think because I'm not one of them. I still remember what it's like to choose between gas and groceries." She looked at him, really looked. "That's exactly why I'm worried." He turned. "About me. About what this world does to people like you." She paused. "Like us." The waves slapped gently against the wood. Somewhere a gull cried in the distance. The late afternoon sun stretched their shadows long across the planks. Noah let out a breath. "Beau told me not to get distracted." Clara's expression shifted. "Did he say that before or after he interrupted our dance?" "After." She nodded, biting her lower lip. "Do you regret it?" she asked. "No." Silence again. "I don't play games," Noah said, voice low. "I'm not interested in pretending this is nothing." Clara didn't speak for a moment. "Then neither am I." She reached out and took his hand, her grip light but certain. Noah exhaled slowly, the weight in his chest easing for the first time in days. "Does Marla know?" Clara asked. "What, that you're the first person in months Beau has brought into his inner circle without her blessing?" Noah frowned. "They're engaged. Why wouldn't he trust her?" Clara tilted her head. "Because Marla doesn't want to be a partner. She wants to be the power behind the throne." "If you disrupt that—" "I'm not trying to, I know," she said, "but you might be doing it anyway." A chill ran up his spine. He looked out at the water. "What if this whole thing's bigger than I thought?" he murmured. Clara squeezed his hand. "Then you better decide quickly whose side you're on." Back at the estate that evening, Noah was heading toward the guest cottage when he heard voices from the courtyard, tight, low, urgent. He paused, staying in the shadows. "Marla and Cliff. He's getting too close," Cliff said, pacing. "And Beau's not seeing it." "Of course he's not," Marla said. "He thinks Noah's some kind of golden retriever. Loyal, harmless." Cliff snorted. "You don't believe that?" "I believe people can be molded," she replied. "I just haven't decided if I want him shaped or broken." Noah stood frozen, breath shallow. He stepped back quietly, boots crunching slightly on the gravel. Cliff turned. "Did you hear that Noah didn't wait?" He slipped around the side of the building, heart pounding hard in his chest. He wasn't just observing anymore. He was in the middle of something real, dangerous. And now he had to decide what to do with what he'd heard. Because someone was lying. And trust, that was running out fast. The moonlight washed the stone pathways in silver as Noah slipped back into his cottage heart, hammering against his ribs like it wanted to escape. He pressed his back to the door once it clicked shut behind him, breath-shaky thoughts racing. Marla's voice still echoed in his ears. "I just haven't decided if I want him shaped or broken." He rubbed his face, trying to process what he'd overheard. Cliff and Marla were playing a game behind Beau's back, calculated cold. And he was the pawn being slid across the board without his knowledge. Noah crossed the living room in the dark, pausing in the doorway to Jack's room. His son was still asleep, arms tucked under his head, breathing steady. The small rise and fall of Jack's chest centered him, brought him back to the why. Everything, this job, this risk, this mess, was for him. He sat on the couch folder, still tucked under his arm, and opened it under the dim glow of the floor lamp. The shell company payments, the ghost wire transfers, the name that kept popping up on the routing forms, Cedar Bay Logistics. Noah narrowed his eyes. He'd seen that name before. He grabbed his phone and opened the photo he'd snapped a few days earlier, one of the older manifests from Beau's office. There it was, a single line, almost buried. Cedar Bay Logistics, shipment routed through Port of Wilmington, signed by Cliff Marston. Everything started to click fast and ugly. He sat up straighter, the dots connecting in real time. Cliff wasn't just overseeing shady logistics. He was using a shadow company to launder money through Beau's own business, possibly without Beau's knowledge. But if Marla was in on it too? That wasn't just betrayal. That was war. Noah stood pacing. He couldn't go to Beau yet, not with just this. Cliff would deny. Marla would twist. He needed evidence. Solid, unshakable. Something they couldn't spin. And he needed help. His fingers hovered over his phone screen. "Clara," he hesitated. Then texted, "Need to talk. Now. Please." The reply came fast. "Come to the greenhouse. Quietly." The greenhouse sat behind the estate, hidden by hedges and gardens, mostly used for charity shoots or idle hobbies. Tonight it glowed faintly from inside, the warm light diffused through its glass walls like something secret and sacred. Clara was already there, seated at a small wrought-iron table with a laptop open and her phone set beside it. Her hair was tied up in a loose bun, and she wore an oversized cardigan over jeans. The real her. No gowns, no cameras. Noah stepped in and closed the door behind him. She looked up instantly, reading the urgency in his face. "What happened?" she asked. He handed her the folder and then showed her the photo on his phone. "Cliff's name is all over this," he said. "And Cedar Bay keeps coming up. Payments, shipments, weird paperwork. I think he's siphoning money through one of Beau's old shell companies." Clara scrolled through the documents quickly, her brow furrowing. "I know that name. Cedar Bay used to be one of our transport partners before we consolidated. Then why is it still active?" She didn't answer, just kept reading. Noah lowered his voice. "I overheard Cliff and Marla earlier tonight. They know I'm onto something. Marla said she hasn't decided if she wants me shaped or broken." Clara looked up sharply. She said that he nodded. "She's dangerous, Noah." "I know." Clara stood and crossed the room, tugging a binder off the shelf behind her. She flipped through it fast, then pointed to a page. "Here. Cedar Bay. Their registration was supposed to have dissolved last year, but it looks like someone quietly reactivated them under a new tax ID out of Delaware. Delaware's the go-to for hiding corporate structure," Noah murmured. "Exactly. And whoever did this knew what they were doing." Clara looked up at him. "Beau has no idea, does he?" "No. And I can't go to him until I have more. Cliff's his COO. If I walk in without airtight proof, it'll blow up in my face." Clara nodded slowly. "Then we get the proof." She looked at him. "I'm not letting you walk into this alone." Something about her standing there, calm, grounded, unwavering, made Noah's chest ache. "How did I find you in all this?" he asked quietly. She stepped closer. "Maybe you weren't supposed to." He reached for her hand without thinking. She let him. "I've been trying to keep things simple," he said, voice low. "I know," she whispered. "But nothing about this is simple." They stood there hand in hand until the moment stretched too long. Then Clara pulled back gently. "We have to start digging. I'll reach out to someone at the state filings office off the record. See who reactivated Cedar Bay. You check the internal logs. See if Cliff's signature or login pops up anywhere it shouldn't." "Beau can't know yet?" Noah said. "I won't say a word," Clara promised. "But if you find something solid, you'll have to tell him." "I will," Noah said. "When it's time?" Clara turned back to her laptop. "One more thing." "What?" She hesitated. "If Cliff's doing this, it means he's been laundering money through the company's name. That opens Beau up to liability, even if he's unaware. And if Marla's involved, she might be positioning herself to use that information." Blackmail, Noah asked. Clara didn't answer, but her silence said enough. Back in the cottage, Noah sat beside Jack's bed again, watching his son sleep. The weight of the day pressed down like stone. He thought of the note Beau left him under the plate. "You see what others miss." He hadn't asked for this, but he wasn't going to run from it either. For Jack, for the truth, for something real. His phone buzzed. A text from Clara found something. "You're not going to believe this. Meet me tomorrow. 7 a.m. Noah stared at the message, jaw tight. The noose was tightening, and the first crack in the Kingsley Empire had just started to show. The morning air was thick with salt and mist as Noah stepped out of the cottage, his breath visible in the chill. The estate was quiet, too quiet. The kind of stillness that made the back of his neck tighten. Even the birds seemed hesitant to sing. Clara had asked him to meet at the greenhouse again. 7 sharp. He crossed the dewy grass quickly, the sky still streaked in pale grays and blues. The greenhouse lights were off, But when he pushed the door open, Clara was already there, standing by the metal table with a stack of printouts and her laptop open. Her hair was pulled back into a simple braid, and she looked like she hadn't slept. When she looked up, there was no greeting. Just, "You need to see this." Noah moved closer. "What is it?" She handed him a paper with a highlighted section, the name listed as the reactivating agent for Cedar Bay Logistics. "It's not Cliff. It's registered under a different name, someone called Leonard Hale. Never heard of him." Clara nodded. "You wouldn't have. He's a ghost on paper. But get this, he used to be Marla's executive assistant. Quiet guy, always in the background. He disappeared right around the time she and Beau got engaged. So you think she used him to reopen the company?" Clara clicked a file open on her laptop and turned the screen toward him. "There's more. Hale was listed as a board advisor for another holding group. And guess who the primary beneficiary of that group is?" Noah leaned in, Marla Clara said. Noah exhaled slowly, reading the line. "Everything leads back to her," he said. "She reactivated the shell. Cliff's just the operator. She's the architect." Clara nodded. "Which means she's building something behind Beau's back, possibly for leverage, or for escape." Noah's mind ran through the implications. If she's funneling funds, then she could make it look like Beau was laundering money through the foundation, ruin his name, maybe even bring legal heat. Exactly. She could burn him to the ground with one leak. Noah set the paper down. "Beau has no idea. He's trying to sniff out Cliff, and all the while, the real threat is sleeping in the same house." Clara hesitated. "So what do we do now?" Noah stared at the papers, jaw tight. "We need to catch them red-handed. No more theories. No more paper trails. Something they can't deny." Clara hesitated, then reached under the table and pulled out a small black pouch. "I wasn't going to tell you yet, but I've been recording the internal system logs through a shadow copy of Cliff's terminal. It pings me every time he accesses restricted accounts. You've been monitoring Cliff. I built the tool after he froze me out of the financial team 6 months ago. I knew something wasn't right. I just didn't have proof." Noah stared at her. "You're full of surprises." Clara smiled faintly. "You're just starting to see them." She opened a dashboard on her screen. A red dot blinked. "There. He's logged into the Shell account again this morning, transferring money to a holding bank in Miami. Same one from last quarter." Noah pointed. "We need to see where it goes from there. I can trace it, but it'll take time. Maybe a day." "We don't have a day." Clara sighed. "Then we bait them." Noah frowned. "How we leak a fake report. Say Beau's launching an internal audit with outside counsel. If Marla or Cliff are guilty, they'll scramble to cover tracks. Maybe even try to move funds faster. That's risky. It's our best shot." Noah paused, thinking it through. "All right, but we have to keep Beau in the dark for now." Clara nodded, then looked up at him. "You trust me, right? I do." She held his gaze. "Even if this gets ugly, it already is." He reached across the table, took her hand, held it. "We're in this together." Clara nodded once, and it was more than agreement. It was commitment. By mid-morning, the estate was in motion again. Beau was pacing the foyer with his phone to his ear, barking updates to someone in New York. Jack was off with Carla on a nature walk around the grounds, and Marla nowhere to be seen. Perfect. Noah slipped into the West Wing office Clara had mentioned, the old conference room no one used. Clara was already at the desk, typing fast, her eyes flicking across lines of code as she uploaded the fabricated audit notice to the internal comms hub. Within 10 minutes, the system pinged. Cliff had opened the memo. 20 minutes later, another ping. Outbound login from Cliff's device. Secure tunnel. Accessed Cedar Bay account. Noah leaned in. "They're biting." Clara opened the access log. Looks like he's transferring out the remainder of the account, emptying it, fast. She clicked again. He's erasing the metadata. Too late, Noah said. We've already mirrored it. Clara nodded. We got them. Or at least, we got enough. They both sat back, the weight of the moment crashing into the room, but the relief didn't last. Because just then a soft voice came from the doorway. Well, isn't this interesting? They turned. Marla stood there in tailored cream slacks, arms folded, an unreadable look on her face. Noah stood. What are you doing here? I was about to ask you the same thing. She walked in slowly, eyes landing on Clara, then the laptop. Clara's jaw tightened. You've been stealing from the Foundation, setting Bo up. Marla laughed softly. That's a bit dramatic. We have the logs, Noah said. The transfers. The name on the reactivated shell company. Marla's expression didn't change. And yet, you haven't said a word to Bo. Why is that we're going to? Clara said. Marla stepped closer. No, you're not. Noah narrowed his eyes. What makes you so sure? Because if Bo finds out, he'll implode. The company will panic. Investors will pull. You'll ruin more than just me. She looked directly at Clara. You'll ruin him. Silence. Marla turned to Noah. Do you really think you're helping him by digging up poison? What happens when the board hears? When the press gets hold of this, everything he built? Gone. That's not our fault, Clara said, her voice hard. Marla smiled. Truth doesn't care about fault. It only cares about fallout. She turned to leave, then paused in the doorway. You have a choice. You always do. And then she was gone. Noah looked at Clara. They both knew what she said wasn't just manipulation. It was a warning, and they had to decide soon how much truth they were willing to expose, and what they might lose in doing it. Noah sat alone on the back porch of the guest cottage, staring out at the wide lawn as twilight painted the sky in layers of orange and lavender. The air felt heavy, like the world was holding its breath. The confrontation with Marla replayed in his head on a loop, each line sharper than the last. She hadn't flinched, hadn't denied a thing. She didn't need to. Her power was in her calm, her ability to make destruction sound like an offer of peace. And now, he didn't know what the right move was. Behind him, the screen door creaked open. Clara stepped out slowly, 2 mugs in hand. She handed one to him and sat beside him on the wooden bench, the cushion sagging slightly under their combined weight. She said too much, Clara said softly. Because she thought we wouldn't have the nerve to do anything with it? She's probably right, Noah muttered. Clara looked at him. No, she's counting on us being scared. And maybe we are. But fear's not the same as weakness. Noah stared down into his mug. The steam curled upward like a question mark. She's right about the fallout, though, he said. If we bring this to Bo, the whole company could be dragged down, and I don't think he survives that. He deserves to know, Clara said. But maybe we don't bring it to him directly. He glanced at her. I have a friend, she explained. A compliance attorney I trust. Discreet. If we give him the evidence and let him confront Cliff, it gives Bo deniability. Time to clean house quietly before this explodes. Noah leaned back, his mind running through the risks. You think Cliff will crack? Cliff's a coward, Clara said without hesitation. He plays tough, but he's always followed someone stronger. If he thinks Marla can't protect him anymore, he might talk. Clara nodded. They sat in silence for a few beats, the sun sinking lower. Crickets began their slow chorus in the bushes nearby. Do you ever wonder, Noah asked quietly, what your life would have looked like if you hadn't gotten pulled into all of this? Clara smiled faintly. Every day. And I'd probably be running a non-profit that actually runs on time. Maybe teaching kids how to grow tomatoes." He chuckled under his breath. "That sounds peaceful." "It does, but I'd probably be bored out of my mind." She turned to look at him. I'd still be waiting tables," he said, trying to scrape together enough to keep Jack in shoes that fit. "You're a good dad," she said softly. Noah swallowed hard. "Sometimes I feel like I'm barely holding it together." Clara reached over and laced her fingers through his. "Maybe that's what being a good parent is. Holding on anyway, especially when it's hard." Her touch was steady grounding. He turned to face her fully. "I've never had someone like you in my corner," he said. "Not since his mom left." Clara blinked slowly, her voice barely above a whisper. "And I've never let someone in like this, not since... well, not in a long time." The quiet between them shifted. It wasn't heavy anymore, it was full, charged. Noah leaned in just a breath away. "This thing between us, it's real, right?" Clara nodded. "It is." He kissed her. Gently at first, like testing whether the moment was truly meant to be. But when she didn't pull away, the kiss deepened. It wasn't rushed or desperate. It was relief, like finding something you didn't know you'd lost. When they pulled apart, Clara rested her forehead against his. "I don't want to lose this," she whispered. "You won't," Noah said. And he meant it. The next morning moved faster than either of them expected. Clara's contact, Ben Langston, met them at a quiet cafe on the outskirts of town. He was in his early 40s, sharp-eyed but approachable, the kind of man who listened more than he spoke. After reviewing the files, Ben exhaled slowly and pushed his glasses up on the bridge of his nose. "This is solid," he said. "Cliff's directly linked to at least 3 counts of financial misappropriation. And if Marla's name pops up on those accounts, you're looking at a conspiracy case." "What happens next?" Clara asked. "I'll make contact with Cliff discreetly, let him know the paper trail leads right to him, and offer him a deal. If he cooperates, he walks away with a warning and some bruised pride. If he doesn't..." He let the silence fill in the rest. "What about Bo?" Noah asked. Ben considered. "You don't tell him until you're ready. Let Cliff crack first. That's the lever. Once that moves, everything else will follow." They thanked him and left, walking back to Clara's car in silence. Inside, Noah exhaled deeply. "So now we wait." Clara nodded, eyes fixed on the road ahead. "Now we wait." By evening, the sun was low again, golden light pooling across the estate like spilled honey. Noah watched Jack draw chalk dragons on the cobblestone path, while Clara sat nearby answering emails. But then Cliff's silver sedan turned into the driveway. Noah stood up immediately. Cliff didn't go to the main house. He parked by the greenhouse and stayed in the car. Clara followed Noah's gaze, rising slowly. "That's weird. He's not supposed to be here today," Noah said. They exchanged a look. Then Clara's phone buzzed. She glanced down at the screen and her eyes widened. "It's Ben. Cliff called him 10 minutes ago. Said he wants to meet... tonight? Off property?" "Then what's he doing here?" Noah asked. Clara looked up slowly, concern creeping into her voice. "Unless... he's saying goodbye." Noah's stomach twisted. "You think he's about to run?" Clara didn't answer. They watched in tense silence as Cliff finally stepped out of the car and walked toward the back entrance of the main house phone, pressed to his ear, voice low. He didn't look like a man on his way to a negotiation. He looked like someone with nothing left to lose, and that was more dangerous than anything. The door to the main house shut behind Cliff with a heavy thud. From where Noah and Clara stood half-concealed behind the garden hedge, It felt like the sound traveled all the way to their bones. "He's not going to that meeting," Clara said, voice tight. Noah's jaw flexed. "He's making his own move." They exchanged a glance, and without needing to say it, they both turned and made their way toward the house. Inside, the energy was off still, but not peaceful, like the calm just before thunder. Cliff's voice drifted from down the hallway. "I told you we had a problem. You didn't want to listen." Clara grabbed Noah's wrist, pulling him back into a small side corridor. From the narrow cut between walls, they could see the edge of the drawing room. Cliff pacing phone in one hand, his free hand moving through the air in sharp, frantic gestures. Noah leaned in, trying to catch the other voice. Muffled low. "Marla, that's not my concern anymore," she was saying. Cliff cut her off. "Don't play coy. You told me this would stay clean, that he was just a PR piece, someone to keep Beau distracted." He was, Marla snapped. "But now he's more useful than you." Cliff stopped moving. "You're throwing me under the bus. I'm cutting dead weight." Cliff laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I covered for you. Every transfer, every shadow account. If I go down, you go with me." There was a pause. Then Marla said calmly, "I'm not going down, Cliff. I've already made arrangements." Noah's heart thumped hard. Clara's grip on his sleeve tightened. Cliff dropped into a chair, leaning forward like the air had been knocked out of him. "So that's it. You're not built for this," she said. "You never were." There was movement, Marla crossing the room, likely towards the bar. "You were supposed to fix it," she continued. "Instead, you brought attention. And now, I need a new strategy." Noah backed up from the hallway, whispering, "She's cutting him loose." Clara's eyes darted toward the staircase. "Where's Beau?" "Still on those investor calls," Noah whispered back. "We need to get to him before she does. She's already working an angle. We're behind." A sharp sound echoed from the drawing room, glass clinking hard against marble. Marla's voice dropped to a chilling calm. "If you had done your job, we wouldn't be here." Noah tugged Clara back a few more feet. "Let's go. Now." But just as they turned to move, Clara froze. "Wait," she whispered. "We need that recording." Noah blinked. "What?" She held up her phone, already recording, then scrolled back. "I got most of it, but we need a clean ending. Something undeniable." Noah peeked back into the corridor. "If Cliff starts talking names, this could be it." Clara looked up at him. "We stay. 30 more seconds." Reluctantly, he nodded. Back in the drawing room, Cliff had found some footing again. "You think you can spin this fine? But if I'm out, I'm taking something with me." "You won't," Marla said. "No," he stood. "Try me." A silence fell. Then her voice, soft and cold. "I know about the hotel account in Savannah. I know whose name you used on the third-party invoice. You're not clean, Cliff. Not even close." Cliff flinched. Marla continued. "So let's not pretend you're the victim. You were greedy, sloppy, and now, replaceable." Cliff laughed bitterly. "You're a real piece of work." "And you," she said, "are done." Clara's phone buzzed softly, just a tiny vibration. But it was enough. From inside the room, what was that? Clara and Noah ducked back fast, breath shallow, footsteps, sharp, coming toward them. Noah grabbed Clara's hand, whispering, "We have to go. Now." They ducked into the nearest room, a rarely used study, and pulled the door shut just as Cliff's figure appeared in the hallway, eyes scanning like a hawk. Noah held his breath. Seconds passed. Then, mercifully, Cliff turned and walked away. In the silence that followed, Clara leaned against the wall phone, clutched to her chest. "That's it," she said. "We have enough." Her voice, the threats, the financial trail. Noah nodded. "We take it to Ben. Clara looked up at him, her face pale but resolute. And then we tell Bo. All of it. Noah touched her cheek, grounding her. You okay? She nodded. Just scared. He smiled softly. Good. Means you're sane. She let out a breathless laugh, then leaned into his shoulder. They stayed like that for a moment, wrapped in the tight, breathless stillness of a storm that hadn't hit yet but was coming. And now for the first time, they were ready for it. Bo stood at the far end of the terrace overlooking the waterphone pressed to his ear, nodding slowly as he listened to a voice on the other end. He didn't see Noah approach at first. The late afternoon sun painted the edges of his silhouette in gold, but his expression was tight, distracted like a man who hadn't slept well in days. When the call ended, Bo exhaled and turned. His brow furrowed the moment he saw Noah. You look like you've got something to say, Bo said. I do, Noah replied, steady but quiet. But I need you to hear all of it, even the parts that are going to hurt. Bo folded his arms. This about Cliff. It's about Marla. Silence. Bo's jaw worked. Go on. Noah handed him Clara's phone. The audio file already open. Bo hesitated, then pressed play. The recording began Cliff's voice, sharp and defensive. Then Marla's cool and controlled. There was no mistaking her. No ambiguity. Every word carefully spoken, every threat calculated. By the time it ended, Bo's hand had dropped to his side. His face looked like stone. Quiet, but behind his eyes, shock, hurt, something breaking in real time. He said nothing. Noah waited. Finally, Bo handed back the phone. How long have you known? He asked, his voice gravelly. I started piecing it together 2 weeks ago. Clara found the logs, the shell accounts, the routing details, Cliff's name, and then Marla's. We waited until we had proof. Bo nodded slowly but didn't look at him. You brought this to me instead of the board. Why? Because this is your life, your company, and your trust means something to me. Bo looked down at the floor, then turned back toward the water. She's been in my house, my bed, telling me she was building our future. He let out a bitter laugh. I'm not even mad, I'm just embarrassed. You shouldn't be, Noah said gently. She's smart. She knew how to play it. Bo was quiet for a long beat. Then, so what now? Cliff's ready to fold. Your attorney is setting up a meeting. Marla doesn't know we have the recording. Bo turned slightly, his expression darkening. She will soon. Noah stepped forward. Bo, don't confront her alone. Let the legal side handle it. Quietly, cleanly. You can protect the company if you act carefully. Bo looked at him, really looked. And you? Where do you fit into this when it's all over? Noah paused. I don't know. Bo gave him a tired smile. You're a good man, Noah. Too good for the game we play. I didn't want the game, Noah said. I just wanted a chance. You earned one. Another long pause stretched between them. The breeze picked up, rustling the leaves around the terrace. Then Bo turned back to the house. Tell Clara to meet me in the study tonight. We need a plan. Noah nodded, but before he could leave, Bo added, And Noah, thank you for not letting this stay in the dark. Noah met his eyes. You're welcome. That night, in the quiet of the guest cottage, Noah sat on the couch with Jack curled beside him, fast asleep. A cartoon flickered on the muted TV screen, casting soft colors across the room. Clara sat at the kitchen table, laptop, open headset on. She was debriefing Ben, walking through timelines and action steps. Noah watched her. Strong, focused, sharp as ever, and somehow still the calm in his storm. When she finally clicked off the call, she looked over at him and smiled, small, tired, but real. It's done, she said. Noah nodded. "You okay?" Clara crossed the room and sat beside him, careful not to wake Jack. "I think so," she whispered. "But tomorrow's going to be messy." "Yeah." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of what was coming heavy but shared. Then Clara reached for his hand. "I'm glad you're here," she said. He looked at her, all the tension in his chest softening. "I'm not going anywhere." Morning sunlight poured through the tall windows of the Kingsley estate, but the air inside felt thick, like it hadn't caught up to the brightness outside. Clara stood in the study, arms crossed, watching as Beau signed the final page of the document Ben had prepared. The morning had been a blur of silent movement, calls made, meetings, scheduled, attorneys looped in under strict confidentiality. The plan was already in motion. Cliff had agreed to a formal exit resignation, masked as a personal sabbatical, with non-disclosure clauses so airtight they practically vibrated off the paper. He hadn't argued. Not after the audio. Not after seeing Beau's face when the truth hit him. But Marla, she didn't know yet. Beau looked up, meeting Clara's eyes. His voice was steady, but there was something raw behind it. "She'll deny it." Clara nodded. "She might. Even with the recording, she'll try to spin it. But it won't matter anymore. You have control now." Beau leaned back in the leather chair, rubbing the bridge of his nose. "It's strange. I used to think love made people more honest. Turns out it just makes them better at hiding." Clara's chest tightened at that. Not because she didn't understand it, but because she did. Before she could speak, the door creaked open, and Noah stepped in wearing the same look he'd had all morning, calm on the outside. But you could see the storm behind his eyes if you knew where to look. "She's here," he said. Beau stood slowly buttoning his jacket. "Bring her in." Clara and Noah exchanged a quick glance. Then Clara nodded, walking out with Noah to the hallway. Marla was waiting in the sitting room, dressed in her usual crisp, flawless style blazer heels, every hair in place. She looked like she was heading to a board meeting, not walking into the fire. Her gaze flicked between the two of them. "Quite the pair you make," she said smoothly. Noah didn't react. Clara stepped forward. "Beau's ready for you." Marla's smile barely shifted. "Oh, I'm sure he is." She walked past them like she didn't have a single doubt in her mind. But Noah saw it, the slight stiffness in her shoulders, the way she clutched her phone just a little too tightly. Inside the study, the door shut behind her with a quiet click. Neither Clara nor Noah spoke. They just waited. Minutes passed. No voices rose from behind the door, no shouting, no chaos, just silence until the handle turned. Marla stepped out. Slower this time. No blazer, no phone in her hand. Just her. Stripped down to the person beneath the power. She looked at Clara, then at Noah. Her expression unreadable, but in her eyes, something was gone. Some light, some fight. She walked past them without a word. A car door slammed moments later. Then tires on gravel. Then nothing. Inside the study, Beau sat alone. His hands rested on the edge of the desk, fingers, interlocked, gaze fixed on the window. Clara stepped in first, softly. "Beau." He looked at her, and for the first time in days he smiled. It was faint, hollowed out, but real. "It's done," he said. "She's gone." Noah leaned in the doorway. "How do you feel?" Beau let out a quiet breath, like I lost something I never really had. He stood, his voice gentler now. But also like, maybe I've got space again, space for something real. He turned to them both. "I don't know what's next for me, not really. But I know this. I've been looking for loyalty in all the wrong places. And somehow two people who had no reason to care became the only ones who didn't lie to me." His eyes softened. "Thank you. Both of you." Clara swallowed hard, emotion rising behind her eyes. Noah nodded. We just did what needed to be done. Bo gave them a look that said more than words could hold. Then he walked past them, out into the morning, into whatever was waiting next. And for the first time since stepping into the Kingsley world, it felt like something had shifted. Not in chaos, in clarity. Late afternoon sunlight spilled across the greenhouse, catching on the glass panes like gold dust. Inside, the air was warm and smelled faintly of lemon thyme and potting soil. Clara stood near the back table, slowly watering the potted herbs she'd been tending since arriving. Her movements were slow, thoughtful. She wasn't in a rush today. Noah watched her from the entrance, leaning against the doorframe. It had been 2 days since Marla left, and the estate had fallen into an almost eerie calm, like everyone was waiting to exhale, but no one quite dared yet. He stepped in quietly. You always look so calm when you're in here. Clara glanced back, smiling softly. It's hard to fake things around plants. They don't care about status, or money, or scandal. Noah chuckled and moved closer, tucking his hands in his pockets. Bo left this morning. Clara straightened. Left, yeah. Said he needed time away. Took a bag and told the house staff he wouldn't be back for a while. No timeline. Just gone. She turned, surprised. Did he say anything to you? Only that he was grateful and tired. Noah hesitated. I think he needs to figure out who he is now that everything's stripped away. Clara nodded slowly, then looked down at the watering can in her hand. That makes sense. They stood in silence for a moment. The sound of a soft breeze tapping against the glass. A bird somewhere in the distance. I've been thinking, Noah said finally. About us. Clara turned to face him fully. I came here looking for work. A better shot for Jack, that's it. And then suddenly I was neck-deep in boardroom secrets and corporate games I never asked to play. You handled it better than most executives would have, Clara said. He smiled faintly. I didn't handle it alone. Clara looked away, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. I don't know what happens next either. Noah took a slow breath. But I know I don't want to lose you, and I don't want to go back to just surviving. She met his eyes again. Me neither. I've spent so long thinking love was just a chapter that closed when Jack's mom left, he said. But lately, I've been wondering if maybe it's not about what I lost. Maybe it's about what I almost missed. Clara stepped toward him close enough that he could smell the faint citrus from her hands. You didn't miss it. You found it. He reached out and took her hand. Are we doing this, Clara? She didn't hesitate. We are. The answer settled between them, simple and solid. But it wasn't just about them now. What about after this place? Noah asked gently. After the estate quiets down? After Bo's back and the dust settles? Clara's eyes softened. There's a world outside these walls, Noah. And I'm not tied to any of it. I've been chasing something for years, status validation. But it never gave me what I really wanted. What did you want, a place where I didn't have to prove myself every second? She squeezed his hand. With you, I don't feel like I'm auditioning. He nodded, heart full. You and Jack, that's the future I want. Clara smiled. Then let's build it. A beat passed. Then Noah leaned in and kissed her slower this time, not as a question but as a promise. Outside, the wind picked up slightly, rattling the greenhouse just enough to remind them the world was still moving. But inside, everything finally felt still. They stayed like that, wrapped in warmth, and something that felt a lot like home. A warm breeze drifted through the open windows of the guest cottage, carrying with it the scent of honeysuckle and fresh-cut grass. Jack sat cross-legged on the floor, deeply focused on a Lego spaceship he was determined to finish before dinner. Clara was at the small kitchen table, thumbing through her planner, though her pen hadn't moved in minutes. Noah leaned in the doorway, arms crossed, watching the two of them, his son, and the woman who somehow had slipped past every wall he'd built. The quiet, domestic scene shouldn't have felt so extraordinary, but it did. After everything, this felt like something rare. Earned. Clara glanced up and caught him watching. She smiled gently. "You're staring." "Can't help it," he said. "Feels like if I blink, this might vanish." She set down her pen and stood walking toward him. "It's real, Noah." He nodded slowly, brushing a thumb across her hand. "It doesn't feel like anything I've ever known. It feels like breathing." She leaned into him, her voice softer now. "You deserve that. So does Jack." Before he could answer, a knock came at the front door. Jack looked up. "Is it Mr. Kingsley?" Noah ruffled his son's hair and stepped over. Only one way to find out. When he opened the door, it wasn't Beau. It was Olivia, the estate's head of operations. She smiled, polite and professional, as always, but there was something different in her eyes, a flicker of excitement. "Sorry to drop in," she said. "But I have a message from Beau." Clara joined him at the door. "Is everything okay?" Olivia nodded. "More than okay. He's back. He flew in this morning, and he's asking for you both." Noah exchanged a glance with Clara. Did he say why Olivia hesitated, then grinned? Just said it was time to make good on his promise. The sun was beginning to set when they arrived at the main house. The staff moved briskly, smiles on their faces, like they knew something Noah and Clara didn't. Beau stood at the top of the back veranda, dressed down in jeans and a linen shirt sleeves, rolled a glass of iced tea in one hand. When he saw them, he stepped forward. "You came," he said with a tired but genuine smile. "Wouldn't miss it," Noah replied. Beau looked between them, then at Jack, who was clutching Clara's hand with a wide-eyed stare. "How's that spaceship coming, kid? Still missing a wing?" Jack replied, then added, "But it's close." Beau chuckled. "Good. That means you haven't given up." "I like that," he gestured toward the house. "Come on in. There's something I want to show you." They followed him through the wide corridor until he stopped at the entrance to the old library. The doors were already open. Inside, the space had been transformed, sleek desks, new lighting, fresh equipment. But the soul of the room remained shelves of books, warmth, character. Beau turned to Noah. "This is yours." Noah blinked. "What I meant what I said weeks ago," Beau continued, "about building something real, about giving people like you a seat at the table." This, he nodded toward the updated space. "This is the start. A foundation for a new wing of Kingsley Holdings. Community initiatives, social reinvestment, programs that actually help real families." He paused. "And I want you to lead it." Clara looked at Noah, her eyes wide. Noah was speechless. "Beau." You earned this," Beau said firmly. "Not because you cracked some secret code, not because you found the skeletons, but because through all of it you stayed honest, and you cared." Noah glanced at Clara, then at Jack, and he realized this wasn't just a job offer. It was a new life. "I'll do it," he said, voice thick with emotion. "But only if Clara's part of it, too." Beau smiled. "She already is. I'm hoping she'll run point on strategy, assuming she doesn't have better offers." Clara stepped forward, slipping her hand into Noah's. "We're in." Beau nodded, satisfied. "Good. Then let's get to work." Noah exhaled slowly, heart pounding with something that felt like peace. Like certainty. This wasn't the ending. It was the beginning he never saw coming. The morning was quiet, the kind of quiet that only came after a storm had passed. and the world was still catching its breath. Noah stood at the edge of the foundation site, hands on his hips, watching the crew mark off the final corners for the new building. It would be a community center, Kingsley's first official reinvestment project, and the flagship program of the division he now led. In just a few weeks, it would be filled with classrooms, workshops, after-school programs, job training labs. A place where people didn't have to beg for opportunity, they could walk in the front door and find it waiting. Behind him, Clara walked up with 2 cups of coffee, and that look she always had when she'd been up since sunrise, focused, slightly windswept, effortlessly beautiful. "They've got a good rhythm today," she said, handing him a cup. He nodded. "Yeah, they'll finish leveling by Friday." She looked out across the space with a small smile. Hard to believe this started with a $0 tip and a note on a plate. Noah laughed under his breath. "Still think about that day sometimes, about how close I was to walking away." Clara turned to him gently. "But you didn't." "No," he said quietly. "I didn't." They stood like that for a moment, shoulder to shoulder, looking out at the future they were building literally. Behind them, Jack's voice called from the temporary office trailer. "Dad, Clara. Come see." They turned to find him standing in the doorway, holding something above his head. Clara squinted. "Is that a model of the building?" Noah smiled. "Looks like someone raided the printer again." They made their way back, laughing, as Jack proudly set the miniature version of the center down on the table. He'd added trees, tiny benches, even a little flag out front. The proportions weren't perfect, but the heart was all there. "I think we should put this in the lobby when it's done," Jack announced. "Deal," Noah said, crouching beside him. "But only if you're the one to explain it to the press." Jack grinned. "I've been practicing." Clara ruffled his hair. "Of course you have." As they gathered around the model, Bo walked in through the side entrance. He looked more rested now, grounded in a way that hadn't existed when Noah first met him. Success had always been his armor. Now it was just a tool. "How's our future headquarters looking?" he asked. "Stronger every day," Clara replied. Bo clapped Noah on the back. "You ready for the gala next week? You're the keynote?" Noah rolled his eyes, still not sure how that happened. "Because you're the story," Bo said. "People don't remember spreadsheets. They remember someone who showed up with nothing, stayed honest, and changed everything." Clara looked over at Noah with warmth in her eyes. "He's not wrong." Noah exhaled, rubbing the back of his neck. "It's a lot." "It is," Bo agreed. "But you've carried bigger." After Bo left, Clara walked over and wrapped her arms around Noah from behind, resting her chin on his shoulder. "You still doubt it sometimes, don't you?" she whispered. He nodded. "Yeah, I guess I do." She didn't try to fix it, just held him tighter. Then she whispered, "I don't." His eyes closed for a moment, and he let her words settle. Later that evening, after Jack was asleep, and the house had fallen quiet, they sat on the back porch, wine glasses in hand feet, tucked under a shared blanket. The stars were out brighter than usual, or maybe they were just noticing them more now. "I keep waiting for something to go wrong," Noah said softly. "Like it's too good." Clara looked at him, her voice calm. "Maybe it's just finally good enough." He turned to her. "What if it stays this way?" She smiled. "Then we don't run from it. We live it." The wind shifted, and the night air carried the sound of crickets and distant waves from the marsh nearby. It was soft, steady, like the world whispering back. Noah took her hand, held it quietly, and realized for the first time in a long time he wasn't surviving anymore. He was home. And the lesson after everything was simple. Sometimes life doesn't give you what you expect. It gives you exactly what you need.